Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Amanda and I talk about all things true crime here. So in this video, I'm going to do some case updates. I'm also going to start off with a missing person. So Brittany Tee is a 35-year-old female who is missing from Brookfield, Massachusetts. She was last seen leaving her boyfriend's residence on January 10th, 2023 at about 8:30 p.m. Police said that the boyfriend is cooperating with the investigation. Brittany is reportedly 5'6" and 120 pounds. She has brown hair and blue eyes, and she was last seen wearing a black coat, jeans, and work boots. Her family and friends are extremely worried about her, and they say that it's not like her to be gone this long, and she's never been gone this long without reaching out to somebody. Police are asking for help from the residents in the search for her. They're asking for all residents to review their outdoor footage, including ring cameras, any outdoor surveillance cameras that could be of any assistance in the investigation. Anyone with information is requested to call the dedicated tip line at 508-453-4789. So we have an update in the Athena Brownfield case already, and it's heartbreaking. Now, if you remember correctly, Athena is a 4-year-old who was missing out of Surreal, Oklahoma, and she was reported missing when her sister was found by the postal carrier at around like 2 p.m. in the afternoon, just wandering around by herself, saying she was hungry. So first, in my first update, or when I introduced this case, I was calling the female caregiver Alyssa, I believe, when I guess her name is actually Alicia. Either way, I don't care what her name is, to be honest, because I think she's a real piece of shit. All right, so in the affidavit of arrest for Ivan, his wife goes into detail about what actually happened with Athena. She goes on, and before I say this, I want to say that this is a trigger warning. What I'm about to say is pretty upsetting because I steal the child. I mean, it would be upsetting with anybody, but it's really hard to hear when it's a child. I'm not going to go as in-depth or I guess read verbatim from the affidavit. It's just too heartbreaking. So I'm going to try and just sum it up in a few words. So the affidavit says that it all took place on Christmas night when Ivan was picking Athena up by her hands, and then he laid her down and punched her at least 3 times. He then left with her, and when he came back, he told Alicia that he buried her near a fence line and to basically not worry about it. And the two went on to live like this didn't just take place. The mother, or the female caregiver, she actually was posting photos about going to a fancy New Year's Eve party, like the death of this little girl did not matter at all. We found out through some of the court documents that Athena's biological mother actually put Athena and her sister in the care of Alicia and Ivan about 2 years ago. However, the couple never took the girls to get checkups at doctors, and the older daughter, who's 5 years old, they didn't enroll her in kindergarten. So currently, Ivan is still in Arizona waiting for Oklahoma to come pick him up. I believe they have about 30 days to come grab him for the extradition process back to Oklahoma to be arraigned on the charges of first-degree murder and 2 counts of child neglect. Now, the female caregiver, Alicia, she is currently in custody on a $500,000 bond. Anna Walshe. So Anna Walshe's husband, Brian Walshe, we talked about her previously, where she was last seen on January 1st, but wasn't reported till January 4th, missing by her employer rather than her husband. And her husband said that he last saw her on January 1st, but nobody again saw her since then. He has since been charged with her murder. He was arraigned today, January 18th, and pled not guilty to the charges of murdering his wife, Anna. It said in a court document on December 27th, Brian Googled what's the best place to get a divorce from. And the state believes that rather than getting a divorce, he just unfortunately murdered Anna and disposed of her body. There was a lot of things that were said in court, from my understanding from the articles I read. They were able to link items found in a dumpster near Brian's mother's home, where, remember, he went just a few days after Anna went missing. Items are found in a dumpster that DNA linked back to the couple. So something about a tissue, a Tarvec suit, and there was one other thing, slippers, that the DNA on them linked back to the couple. One of them or somebody in the home, but linked back to one of them. It was also found that Anna's phone was stationary until January 2nd when it was shut off at 3:14, and it was pinging up until that moment from the family home. So that kind of alleviates what Brian said when he said that she departed on January 1st in a ride share to go to the Logan airport. So real fast, we're going to do Billy Wagner because apparently his pre-trial hearing was very quick today. It was roughly about 5 minutes, and we found out that he is going to trial, and two, that Judge Deering, who presided over George IV trial, will not be presiding over this trial as he's retiring on February 9th. And the person who is taking his spot is actually Rob Junk, who is the prosecutor up until he takes the bench, I guess. So he has been a part of the prosecution team that has been trying George Wagner III, Billy Wagner. So with that conflict of interest, he's unable to be the judge in the trial. So we're still waiting to find out if they're going to bring in somebody else, and I'm assuming that'll be it. I think that's what they indicated in the article, is that they just will bring in another judge to handle it, obviously. Sarah Boone. So Sarah Boone is awaiting trial for second-degree murder of George Torres Jr. In all of her videos that you see, I've watched a lot of her interrogation videos and interviews with police. She calls him George, although to me, I would normally say Jorge if I saw this, but we're just going to go with George since that's what she called him, and apparently she was dating him for 3.5 years. George was found unresponsive after his girlfriend Sarah zipped him up in his suitcase and left him there for almost 12 hours. According to Sarah, she said that her and George were having a good night. They were drinking a little bit. They only had one bottle of wine, and they were playing games and doing some artwork like painting when they decided it would be a great time to play hide and seek. So they played hide and seek, and at one point they thought it would be funny to zip George up in the suitcase. Now, Sarah says she left a little space where he could unzip the suitcase and get himself out. She ended up going upstairs and falling asleep and not waking up until about 12:30 or so, and she was actually laying in bed. She said when she got up and remembered that she left George in the suitcase. When she ran downstairs, she saw him unresponsive and called 911 after she called her ex-husband, who told her to call 911. She expressed to police that what happened to George was unintentional. Now, evidence shows possibly something different. According to some videos that were on Sarah's phone, it looks like she was recording George in the suitcase, sadly yelling her name and saying, "Help, Sarah, I can't breathe." And she said, "This is how I feel when you cheat on me," and things like that. And she definitely sounded like she had more than a bottle of wine that she shared with him. So Sarah was arrested on second-degree murder charges 2 days after George's death on February 26, 2020. So her trial was supposed to start, I believe it was on January 30th. However, she's had some issues with her attorney. Mind you, she's on her 6th attorney. She even wrote a letter to the judge stating that her attorney was not doing very well at communicating with her. He was not returning her phone calls. She was just trying to come up with a defense or speak about her defense, and nobody was getting back to her. So at one point, this current attorney actually filed a request to be removed from the case, but that was denied, especially because she was supposed to go to trial at the end of the month. I feel like that would definitely not happen. But they had a hearing, and the trial is now continued as Sarah's going to be using the battered spouse defense, saying that basically she was scared for her life because George was violent. Now, I do want to say that all of what Sarah says about George is alleged, but there is a history of violence between them both. Apparently, there was police called often, and he was even on parole at the time for domestic violence between the two. But again, from my understanding, Sarah also got in trouble with police for domestic violence against George. And it seems like they had a pretty toxic relationship, but we'll see what comes out when she actually goes to trial. Her pretrial hearing is scheduled for March 28th, with a trial starting on April 10th. When that happens, I'll go ahead and cover how that goes. All right, and so lastly, there was a little update on Oakley Carlson, kind of. It wasn't really about Oakley Carlson, but it does have to do with her mother. So if you're unfamiliar with the Oakley Carlson case, it all officially began on October 6, 2021, when her school principal would call the local police department and request a welfare check be done on the 5-year-old. So The principal previously went to the family's home because she was notified that a fire took place in the home. So she wanted to go and drop some stuff off like a supportive principal would do, I would assume. So she went to the house and she didn't see Oakley. When she questioned about this, the parents said that she was in her room. She went back another time to again drop some items off, and again she was told that Oakley wasn't there. And that's when she became kind of suspicious. She also had a play date with one of Oakley's siblings. I'm not exactly sure how this came about, but she was able to speak with one of Oakley's siblings, and they indicated that Oakley was no more, that she was not around anymore. This would prompt the principal to call in to have a welfare check done. Now, the day of December 6, 2021, when a welfare check was initiated with Oakley's parents, they would end up calling the non-emergency line to report her missing, and that the last time they saw her was November 30th, 2021. Now, this is rather suspicious. I mean, police would contact you and then you wait to call the non-emergency line until police contact you and report her missing days before when she's a 5-year-old girl. So police will go ahead and arrest both Andrew and Jordan on suspicion of first-degree murder. However, these charges would end up getting dropped, and they would actually just be charged with abandonment of a dependent person in the second degree, because while the police were trying to locate Oakley, they found out that the parents were not giving other children in the home the medications that they needed for about 15 to 18 months. 15 months. From my understanding, Jordan has had a lot of methamphetamine issues, and she actually met Andrew, who was a police officer during a domestic violence call with her ex. Now, Jordan and Andrew would eventually end up becoming a couple, and Andrew would also pick up a methamphetamine habit, causing them both to, I guess, spiral out of control, at one point losing custody of their children. Now, during this time of the investigation, they also obviously did some testing on the children and found that they had levels of methamphetamine in their system. Now, these weren't high levels, I would assume, where it was like, oh, this child was using methamphetamines, but more of like a secondhand. Not that that makes it obviously any better. But neither parent was charged with anything regarding the disappearance of little Oakley. So for the update, I guess, now that I went through this whole story, if you understood it, the update is that Oakley's mother, who was originally serving jail time for the drugs found in her children's system, basically being a shitty parent, she was then released on Sunday, the 15th of January, and she was immediately arrested again on identity theft charges. So although we don't have answers, and I'm hoping at some point there is an arrest in the case, because your child's missing and you don't report them missing, I don't understand why that's not just grounds for any type of arrest to begin with. I know that in the Madalena Kojakari case, her stepdad and her mother were arrested for not reporting a child missing. I said in that video, this needs to be throughout the United States, at the very minimum, at state level in every state. But I would love for it to be a federal thing, because normally they serve more of their sentence, I want to say. But I don't really know. I'm not an expert. Sadly, there's no real update, though, in the disappearance of Oakley, but there is an $85,000 reward for any information leading to the discovery of Oakley, or any information leading to, I guess, the indictment of her murderers. All right, that's it for me today. I want to thank you if you've stayed around for this long. If you can like this video and subscribe to my channel, it's a free way to help me out. Also, please feel free to leave any case updates you would like to see, cases you'd like me to follow. I'm going to do another video on some recent case recaps, because there's a lot of cases coming up, like Aiden Fucci, Alex Murdaugh. Not that most of these people, you don't already know who they are, but I was going to give a little case update and then tell you how their pretrial hearing or when their trial's coming. I also have to give a rundown of the murder trial for Andree McDonald, which started this past Tuesday. And until the next video, stay safe out there. The world can be an ugly place.